Hello, and welcome to Insightful Conversations with your host, 3 Principles practitioner, Del A.D. Jones. Join her each week as she welcomes some of the world's leading 3 Principles teachers and practitioners who share how this understanding has dramatically improved the quality of their lives and the lives of those they work with.
I am so thrilled to have as my guest today, Natasha Swerdloff. Natasha lives in Denmark, where she specializes in coaching, leadership training, communication, and consulting on a managerial level. She has been part of a wide range of successful changes in organizations at home and abroad. Natasha is also the co-author of the book Coming Home with Dr. Dicken Bettinger, and she now teaches seminars and speaks at conferences all over the world about the understanding known as the 3 Principles. When she's not busy running around the globe sharing this understanding, she can be found at home with her husband, John, enjoying spending time with friends and family, cooking and gardening, and riding her Harley Davidson. Hi, Natasha. Welcome. That was a surprise to me. I didn't know you rode a Harley.
Oh, yes, I love it.
Yeah, that's great.
It's a summer thing in Denmark.
Yeah. Does a lot of people ride?
I wouldn't say a lot, but it is really a summer thing because it gets so cold in the winter.
Yeah,
So from April to October we ride.
Okay, sounds fabulous. Maybe if I visit you, I'll have a go.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
That's so great. Well, I can't thank you enough. I know that we've just come off an amazing 4-day retreat in Malibu that you were a part of with Dr. Dicken Bettinger again and Michael Neal. And the subject was so profound, the silent mind, beautiful feeling. And it's been lingering. I still feel that. And I just wanted to continue that conversation. But before we go there, I want to know how you first came across the principles. I know you'd been on a spiritual journey for quite a while. So how did you come across the principles?
I have been on a spiritual journey since I was probably 12.
Yeah.
So I came to the principles in June of 2012. Mm-hmm. A friend from England invited me to a weekend seminar with Michael Neal. It was a 3-day coaching seminar. And at first I came to it and I was looking for what I knew already. Mm-hmm. So on the surface level, the 3 principles could look like NLP or positive thinking or mindfulness. It on the surface level, it looks like things that I'd come across before. But I was seeing things during the weekend that I couldn't explain. So Michael Neal would be coaching people and they would have these huge transformations. I couldn't tell what was going on.
Really?
And it intrigued me. Mm-hmm. So that kept me going in this kind of conversation. So then I started taking trainings with other people. I met Dr. Dicken Bettinger in 2014, and that really, for me, made a shift in terms of how I understood this. And the thing that's the bridge for me that I was lacking from a lot of the other systems I've been into is one of the seeing how thought is sort of the missing piece, understanding how thought is what creates all of our experiences.
Yeah, that's so interesting you should say that, because I also feel that in the 3P communities, sometimes there's so much emphasis put on, that we live in the feeling of our thinking, that we sort of almost we ignore that part that I think you speak to so beautifully, and which I see as the foundation of why we get to sort of relax and trust this whole process, which is more around the consciousness part of it that you bring to the conversation.
Yes.
So tell me more about how I know you work in big businesses. And I've always got this thing of, it's my thinking, but I tend to think that maybe CEOs are very reliant on their intellect and their it seems to me that they would be almost like, how do they open up to this sort of silent mind, beautiful feeling? How do you get across to somebody that would maybe just say, what are you talking about?
Well, first of all, intellect is wonderful.
Yeah.
We couldn't get from A to B without our intellect. We really need it, and we need it in business. But what they immediately realize when I speak to them about it is that where their creativity is coming from, where their peace of mind is coming from, where motivation and inspiration is coming from, is not from their intellect. Mm-hmm. So I often ask them questions and to help them realize, my best ideas do not come from sitting at a meeting brainstorming. It actually comes from being in the shower, walking my dog, going for a ride on my bike or something.
Or waking up in the middle of the night. And it's like that light bulb moment. That's my favorite. Why do I have to wake up at 3 o'clock every morning to get those wonderful insights?
Yeah, it's between 4 and 5 for me. So.
Yeah.
So, I keep it practical. I keep it ordinary. And then they just go, oh, yeah, well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's like we're speaking about something that's so real and it's so ordinary that everybody can recognize it. A 5-year-old can recognize it, and a CEO of a huge company can recognize it. I don't clothe it in sort of mystical, spiritual clothing so that it looks like something that they don't want to deal with. I make it really practical and easy for them to understand.
Yeah. So so I love that, and that's because a lot of people they haven't explored that spiritual part of life, and I think it could be a little bit of a turn-off if you start talking too much about. So what words do you use? I mean, we use words like wisdom, mind, and things like that. So in a business setting, what words do you do to sort of have it come across in not such of a spiritual way?
Well, everybody thinks.
Yeah.
Right? That's the first principle. It's thought. It's the power behind our thinking, behind our personal thinking. Everybody is aware. You can say to anyone, "Are you aware right now?" And they go, "Yep." Yeah. Okay, that's awareness. And then everybody has this deep sense that there's an intelligence behind life. I've rarely met somebody who says, "No, I don't believe that."
Yeah.
We all have a sense that what is it that makes babies grow and flowers grow and turn towards the sun and makes birds migrate and so on and so forth. So we're speaking about something that's so easy to understand that everybody goes, "Oh, yeah. Is that it?" Yeah, it is.
Yeah, that's great, because I had a client the other day where, I was sort of checking in with them, not sort of, are you spiritual or not, but just checking in to get a feel of where they were at. And they definitely, I could tell, were very, very much, it's the outside in, and what I'm going through and feeling right now is because of my environment. And then when you do touch on that intelligence behind life, what it is that's, as you say, making birds go in the right direction, or babies grow into grown-ups as opposed to something else, acorns to oak trees. It was like that moment was like, oh, yeah, I can't argue with that.
No.
Yeah.
So making it really practical and simple, that's really my way in. Asking them questions like, well, if you're sitting in traffic and you get annoyed, can other cars really make you annoyed? And they kind of think about it. First they go, yeah. And then I go, really? So do they have this special power that they put into you while they're just around you? And they go, no. Or I ask a question, have you ever been in a long queue and not been annoyed? And they go, yeah. Okay. So it's not the queue. I guess not.
Yeah.
So then we start talking about feelings and moods and how our thinking has an effect on what we're feeling and that sort of connection. And that's often how I start the conversation, speaking to something that's so simple and so ordinary that they go, oh, yeah, it's not so complicated.
Yeah, and I love it. It's that. And also showing them that, that by quietening the mind is when they get that wisdom and guidance comes through, and the busyness that we do in this in our lives and in our work or even in our homes of constantly planning and strategizing and getting frustrated because we're not getting the answers, and then just realizing that just getting quiet, they'll just naturally pop up.
And everybody can see that. So I ask a lot of questions because I want them to have the realization to see that where does my best ideas come from? Where does my experience come from? And I often point them towards the awareness behind experience because whatever experiences come and go, we think, we feel, we sense things, we perceive things, all of these things come and go. But there's something that doesn't come and go, which is the awareness behind it. And pointing them towards the awareness automatically throws them into the present moment and into the silent space. And then when they start being in this silent space, this is where they themselves can point towards where ideas come from. So now I can speak about wisdom and how that guides them. And they go, oh, yeah, that's right. That's exactly what happens.
Yeah, I have to say it was... being in, I can't remember the workshop we were up at in Topanga last year. I think that's when I really started opening up to that what's behind? What's behind? I mean, to say those questions you have, they're so fabulous, and they really get you to have some perspective.
Well, the first question I sort of ask people is, what is creating your experience? Pointing towards this amazing power of thought that has this infinite possibilities of thinking anything. And that creates all of our experiences.
Yeah.
And then my second question is, what is aware of your experience? What is this awareness that is aware of experience but is untouched by it? Just like a screen is untouched by any movie that's being played on it.
Yeah.
The screen doesn't care if it's a romantic comedy or if it's a horror movie. It doesn't get frightened of it, doesn't get scratched or broken. It can play anything. And that's awareness. Anything can be shown on the screen of awareness without awareness being touched by it. So that people, when they start seeing that, they go, oh my gosh, there's a part of me, this awareness, whatever's gone on in my life, good and bad for all of us, there's something in me that's untouched by anything. And that's really a very powerful thing to start realizing.
Yeah, I was aware of that to a degree. I think when you've had some type of abuse, it's helpful to think that there's a part of you that was never touched by that and is not broken by it or scarred by it. But I think when you, for some reason, it just went another much deeper level when you started, asking those questions. I was really like, okay, I can feel this. I can feel me stepping back and being more of the witness.
Yeah. And then there's a last question as well, which has to do with this power behind all of life, this intelligence behind all of life, seeing that there's something that's living us. There's something that's constantly beating our heart and making our whole body move and our ability to think and all of these things. That's an intelligence that is constantly living us, carrying us, holding us. So when we look for happiness outside, it's as crazy as the wave saying, I wonder if there's an ocean somewhere. Right? We are the ocean.
That's hysterical. I love that one. That's a new one for me. That's so great. And it really is. It's like such a relief.
It is.
I mean, it really is like taking your hands off the wheel and just trusting that you are being steered in the right direction, and that, as we say, wisdom has our back.
Yes.
And sort of letting go of that, the efforting and the ego, who seems to mind. I think I was sharing with somebody the other day, I never trusted mine that much anyway, so it was easy for me to let go and go, something behind me or is through me is taking care of me. I'm better off like paying attention to that than me figuring things out.
And then life is much easier.
Yeah.
It's much more beautiful and easy. And now I can stop spending so much time thinking about how will I solve this? What will I do? Letting go and being guided by something that's always there, that I can rely on. It's actually, in fact, the only thing I can rely on.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I think I shared with you, this is how this radio show came into being, because, I was feeling that my last show was sort of coming to an end, and I was sad. I thought, gosh, it's coming to an end, but I just sort of went, okay, it just feels ready to let go. And then all of a sudden, this wisdom just said, hey, no, split your hour and half an hour, and just focus on what it is that you really, really are interested in and love, so passionately, and want to share with as many people as I can. And that was pure wisdom, because my head was certainly not planning that one. I was almost a bit like, whoa, where did that come from?
Yeah.
But it felt right, and that's why we're here today, having these great conversations.
And again, this is something that happens to every single person. They have an insight into, I want to study this and not that, or I should leave this relationship, or I should go into this relationship, or I want a new job, or I want to move to a new place.
Yeah.
It happens intuitively, we could call it, but it's really wisdom guiding us towards a new way.
Yeah, just being open to that. And as you say, and I think the wisdom is a lot louder and clearer when we have a quiet mind.
Yes.
Yeah. So there's another thing you shared at the weekend that I loved, and that was when we were talking about the sort of the false self that we create, that we sort of. So you share it so beautifully.
Well, the thing is, why are we not always in this beautiful feeling?
Yeah.
Like, why don't we always have a silent mind? Because it's always there, underneath the babbling thinking that we have. So one of the reasons is that when we are born, we're in this beautiful feeling, there's this oneness with everything, and then slowly we learn concepts. Like, this is me, and this is my hand, and that's my mom, and that's my dad, and, whatever it is that we have in our environment. And slowly but surely we start thinking that, oh, I am a girl, I'm good at math, or I'm Danish, or we start labeling ourselves. And this labeling in ourselves, the metaphor I used is, it's kind of like making a cardboard Natasha that I'm holding in front of myself. Like, this is how I think other people want to see me. This is how I want to see myself. And I'm kind of holding on to a cardboard Natasha that always has a great hair day and is always happy and smiling. And, like a lot of people use Facebook for just, oh, I just got flowers and I'm going on a vacation. There's this cardboard image that I want other people to see me as. And I want to see myself.
Yeah.
But often people are really insecure and they are afraid that somebody will see, oh, it's just for show. It's not really who I am. And holding on to this cardboard, it's hard work. You're holding on and your knuckles are getting white because it's really hard work maintaining this image that you have. And when people start realizing that who we are is not a label, who we are in essence doesn't have a certain way of looking. It doesn't care if I have a bad hair day.
Yeah.
There's something inside that has no preference for math or anything. It just is. It's the true being, our true nature. So once we realize that and we let go of this cardboard false image, it's just most people can feel it almost physically in their body. Oh my gosh, what a relief not having to cling on to this.
Yeah.
So it's very powerful for people to see.
Exactly. And I think for me too, I think I shared with you that, I was always repainting, redressing, redoing my image dependent on who was looking at it.
Yeah,
Does
exactly.
this please you?
Yes.
Is this what you want to
Yes.
see? And I mean, of course, there's no real self in that.
No,
It's
in
awful.
personal relationships, now I'm with my parents. Now they want to see the sweet little girl. Now I'm with my partner. He wants to see this. And now I'm at the work. My boss wants to see this image. And it's hard work.
And it's hard work, and it creates separation.
It does.
Because you can't even see the other person when you've got this big cardboard cutout in front of you.
So it in a way, it falsely gives us a sense of separation. Whereas when we all throw down the cardboard box, the cardboard image, we're just us.
Yeah.
And we're the same.
And I shared also with you earlier that following from the weekend, what I love about these retreats and things is that the insights just keep popping. And today, I was just so aware of this sort of image of perfection that I was working very hard at trying to present, failing miserably most of the time. But just like, it was so funny to me that I thought that my humanity was my imperfections. And I just thought, that is sort of the epitome of abandoning yourself.
Yeah.
It's like, I was just human.
Yeah.
But I thought I had to hide it and disguise it and, cover it over with that cardboard cutout.
Yes.
And it's such a relief to just join the rest of the human race and just be real and, and just honest with who we are and what's going on in our lives.
Exactly.
And that's what I love about this understanding so much. It's not that we're trying to, self-improve or get something or gain something. It's just the letting go.
It is.
And actually, on that note, I want to talk about how you came to write the book with Dr. Dicken Bettinger, because that really was the same thing. It was the letting go and the coming home.
Yes.
So how did that come about?
Well, I met Dicken in 2014 at a conference in London, and 2 weeks later I went to Sweden to do a weekend seminar with him. And after that I asked if he would be my mentor. So we started a mentorship program. And 4 weeks in, we'd written a lot of emails back and forth, because each week when we spoke, I would write him an email of my reflections and he would write back. And I think after 4 weeks, we had like 40 or 50 emails between us, and they were deep conversations. So on our fifth conversation, I said, Dicken, and I was kind of frightened of asking him, because here's this man who's been in this understanding for more than 30 years, and I was a newbie.
Yes.
I said, Dicken, this is kind of looking like a book. But again, my wisdom was informing me about this.
Yes.
my ego was saying, no, you can't possibly do that, and who are you to think that this guy would write with you? But something kept saying, just ask him the question, and I did.
That's so beautiful.
And Dickon just said, I've been thinking the same thing.
Yeah. And it is one of the, I think, I mean, as I said earlier, I've given so many copies out to so many people because it's so accessible, it's so beautiful, it's so simple, it really just lays out exactly what this understanding is pointing to. So, and it's so funny, confession time here too. Part of me was like, and who am I to ask Natasha Swerdloff if she'd be on my radio show? So it's funny when we just do those things with each other.
And we all do it.
I know we all do it, exactly.
We're human beings.
That's why I love the fact you shared that, because I was thinking, gosh, I never would have thought that you would have thought that about Dickon, but your wisdom pushed through. You knew that, and thank goodness it did. So
yeah, there really was something guiding me and guiding Dickon to say yes, because I'm sure he could write with anybody. Somebody who'd been in this understanding for longer than I had. But there was something in both of us that seemed right, and what we were really good at was staying with the feeling. The whole time we wrote together. It was about almost 2 years that it took us to write it, because we live in the United States and in Denmark. So we spent a lot of time, whenever we could see each other, we'd be in the same room, but otherwise it was on Skype.
Yeah.
And what we were good at is just staying with the feeling. Like every time we would get into an intellect and start, well, is this right? Well, what do you think? Well, I think this. And we could feel it immediately. The feeling was gone. The feeling of depth, of truth was gone. And then we would have to take a break. So either, okay, speak next week, let's reflect some more about this, or if we were together, let's go for a walk or have a cup of tea.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's so funny. That reminds me of, I'm a painter and figurative painter, and sometimes like when I would take classes, the teacher would say, okay, now step away from your canvas, walk around the block, do something. And I'd be like, no, I've only got so much time left, I have to stay with it. And they were like, no. Yeah. Part of the process is stepping away and coming back with fresh eyes.
Exactly.
Because sometimes you're just so in it, you just don't see clearly anymore. So
and once you get sensitized to that feeling of, oh, it's my intellect writing now.
Yeah.
And which is not, in this type of book, you don't want that.
No, exactly.
And so we were in this feeling, which also means that when people read it, they sense that feeling behind it. And the feeling is what guides us home. That's why Sydney Banks always used to say, listen for a feeling.
Yes.
The feeling guides us home. So that's what we are trying to point to.
I know that the weekend was so beautiful because it was just, the feeling was just pulsating in the room.
It was palpable.
It really was. Yeah. It was incredible. Yeah. So I know you have the, and I might want to make sure I say it right, you have the Principles Institute, and that can be found online. Yes. And what sort of things do you offer on that? I know that you put some videos up, and you also have workshops coming up.
Yes, so workshops. I do intensives with people who come to my home. I sometimes do intensives when I'm here in the States, when people ask me when I'm here anyway.
Wonderful. Yeah.
I do coachings with people from all over the world, from Australia to Europe, United States. Zoom is so wonderful. The internet is amazing, so I can work anywhere. Yeah. So I do lots of different things.
That's fabulous. And I know you're back here in April. You're here for the big conference. Yeah. So can you talk a little bit about that?
The conference this year is a lot of sometimes we loving call them the first generation students of Sydney Banks. So they're all going to be there speaking. So I'm just there as a student this time, which is wonderful. Oh,
great.
So
that's coming up in April in Manhattan Beach.
Yes,
so
it is.
If anybody wants to go online, you can just plug in, I'm forgetting the name. It's
3PGC.
Exactly.
Three Principles Global Community. Yeah. On there, you can see all the events that are posted from all over the world.
And what about your own personal workshops? I know you've got a few coming up. You've just done one in Costa Rica, which
Oh, that was wonderful. Yeah. I did one with Dickon in Costa Rica.
Yeah.
And then the next time I'm back in the States will be in October, where I'll be doing something again in Malibu. The same place that we were at. It's going to be the 18th, 19th, and 20th of October.
Okay, fabulous. And is that the women's one, or is that just open to everyone?
It's open to everyone.
Because I know there was talk about just one for women at some point.
Yes.
So that's in the works too?
It's in the works. It will come.
All right, wonderful. Is there anything you just want to leave it? We're actually beginning to wind down, if you can believe it or not, but just any thoughts that you'd like to leave with anybody that's listening, maybe for the first time, and they're just like, where do I go from here? What is this? I'm intrigued, but where do I go?
Well, first of all, it's something about just noticing, is there something resonating in you when you're listening to this about, oh yeah, there is this space inside that I sometimes fall into naturally, where it feels just really nice. And if you have a sense that that's something that you want to explore more, there's so many resources online about the 3 principles.
Yeah.
You go on YouTube and you put in 3 principles and you will see lots of fabulous presenters. There's so many from so many different countries. And there's so many different subjects from addictions, abuse, hospitals, prisons. There's really a lot of resources online.
Yeah.
So
I know, I love it. As George says, when you have this understanding, all boats, rise with the tide.
Yes.
It just impacts every area of your life. I mean,
it does.
It certainly helped me in so many areas. I can't even begin to list them. But just even that respecting that we all are sort of walking around in our own little sort of thought-created bubble and separate realities. It's just taken the pressure off expecting the other person to see it the way I see it.
Yeah, and just in a personal relationship, the fact that you know that my husband is not the one making me happy, and he's not the one making me sad.
Yeah.
It takes off the pressure completely from the other person, and then we can walk through life together, celebrating.
Yeah. And giving each other the space when either one of you are maybe in a slightly low mood or, but it's not personal. That's the other thing. I used to take things so personally. And again, not anymore.
No.
It's just, I just really respect that I don't really have that power to affect you that much.
No.
To make you mad, happy, sad, any of those things.
The implications are beautiful in work, in personal life, with friends, with family, with your partner, as a parent. The implications where you understand that we live in separate realities, and there's something creating my experience that has nothing to do with you.
Yeah, totally.
It really takes off the pressure from the
I
other
can
person.
imagine, that subject to separate realities, especially in big businesses where you have a lot of, internal, maybe conflict or allegiances and alliances, and it's very, very helpful.
That's the companies I work with. Conflicts stop because they don't blame each other anymore, and creativity rises when people start working together instead of fighting each other. So it really is a beautiful understanding.
Yes, it's a win-win for everybody.
It is.
Well, thank you so much, Natasha. This has been
Welcome.
amazing, way too fast, but I'm really glad you did this little pit stop because I know that you're only here for a couple of days before you head back to Denmark. So thank you. It was wonderful. Thank you.